Hello and welcome everyone to another weekly walk. Nice to see you all. Today our weekly walk, Cool Playgrounds, on July 26th, 2023. A very hot day today in New York City. So hopefully we're all going to stay cool today and stay hydrated while we learn about some of the many Central Park playgrounds all around the park. All right, so let's just get it started. And we all know the Zoom housekeeping. Q&A stays in the Q&A box. So if you have any questions, use the Q&A box. I have some folks on the back end. The chat, of course, to tell us how you're doing, where you are, and also the CC Live transcripts, which you could turn off, as well as the chat that you could also turn off with the little arrow by the side. You can tell it to not show chat previews. All right, and we know that the mission statement for the Conservancy is to preserve and celebrate everything in Central Park as a sanctuary from the pace and pressures of city life and the well-being and enjoyment for all. So today on our weekly walk, we're going to be going from around 80th Street all the way down to 68th Street to see around 4 or 5 playgrounds that are around Central Park. And we're going to be starting our walk right at Cedar Hill. It is a quite scenic place, but let us remind ourselves of all the different rules, that there are no bikes or rollerblades, that dogs must be on leash at all times from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., okay, and no organized recreation on Cedar Hill. But just let's get a better view of some of these rolling hills and having a nice, beautiful glimpse of the Upper East Side. It's definitely a great place to have some sunbathing or to completely avoid the sun and stay in the shade. But it is a very nice, underrated place around Central Park. And with that, let's start our journey. Going down these paths, all around Cedar Hill, encountering some other Conservancy staff as we continue our journey to our first playground of the day. And our first playground of the day is going to be the Ruth and Arthur Smadbeck Heckscher East Playground. Quite a mouthful indeed. And this playground was renovated in 2014. We see some information on the other playgrounds all around Central Park. We have 21 playgrounds, so just make sure you are looking before you enter any of the playgrounds for the rules and the suggestions of the ages that would be best suited for each playground. Now, every single playground we have is going to look unique. This one is going to be quite small for our more younger visitors, for toddlers of the like, and also every single one of our play areas also has some type of water feature. And as we can see, some kids are enjoying that water feature on this day. So I'd highly recommend this playground for around 2 to 5-year-olds max. If we notice these play structures, the things that the children play on in playgrounds are actually pretty close to the ground. So your toddler or young one is going to stay actually very safe. And if we just go immediately outside of the playground, we also have a swing area over here. We have a nice feature that welcomes us into the Ruth and Arthur Smadbeck Playground. And this statue is going to be known as the Group of Bears statue, inviting us to go up and actually climb on it. Let's get a closer look. All right, so this is known as the Group of Bears statue, welcoming kids to the entrance of this playground directly behind them. Essentially, this was made by Paul Manship, and it was dedicated in 1990. There was actually an identical statue of these 3 group of bears in the Bronx Zoo as well. But as we can see, the pedestal is actually really easy for you to actually step up and touch or climb all over the group of bears. So this is one of our many child-friendly and interactive statues that we have around the park. I also see it as quite cute. I enjoy the geometric shapes of the bears, but definitely check out the Group of Bears statue directly outside of this playground if you have the chance. And we have a little close-up of the plaque right underneath the statue. And as we can see, it says it's a gift by Samuel N. Friedman in memory of his beloved wife, Pat Hoffman Friedman. And we are quickly going to backtrack a little bit in our weekly walk with the power of technology. We're going to be going back to the 84th Street area, or a little bit more uptown rather, to the 84th Street area, really quickly to check out one of the most coolest, interestingly designed playgrounds throughout Central Park. All right, so right now we are standing in front of this structure known as the William Osborne Gates, which directly behind is going to be one of the playgrounds we're visiting. So this is one of the most ornamental gates in all of Central Park, known as the Osborne Gates, and they take a very interesting, child-friendly storybook theming. So let's just take a better look at the designs of these gates. All right, so the first gate that we have, this door is going to be dedicated to one of the many folklores, or a couple folklores, and that being the fox and the crow and the tortoise and the hare. As we could see, all these different animals inside the little scene of the gates, 2 squirrels at the top of the gates, and it's giving us little scenes that you could see in these fellow children's story books. So the fox and the crow and the tortoise and the hare, right here at the bottom, all those intricate details, making for a very artful sight indeed. Now let's check out the other gates and see what theming that has. So again, under that storybook theming, but these 2 stories that it's going to be focusing on is the crane aloft surveys the world, the earthbound peacock struts and boasts, and at the bottom, a little hard to see, we have the city mouse and the country mouse. So we have pictures of a crane, peacock, and we also have another folklore that is the wolf and the lamb. So we've got a wolf and a lamb, a crow and a peacock, and all the way at the very bottom, 2 very tiny city mice and country mice. So definitely check out the Osborne Gates if you have the chance. It sits outside of the playground, so anybody at all could visit this. And it's going to be right around 84th Street. And what did I see but at the top of these William Osborne Gates? A miniature of the statue we just saw previously. A group of bears miniature, again made by Paul, who made the original group of bears. And they actually situated it right at the top of the Osborne Gates. And at the other side, we could see a nice little group of horses, or a ram, a horse, and a lamb, it looks like, actually. So it is all a very intricate design, all combined to make the William Osborne Gates. But let us now inspect the playground that sits directly behind these gates, known as Ancient Playground. As again, we could see all the rules and the safety information, as well as the suggested ages that would be most suitable for certain areas in the playground. You can see one says 8 to 10, and the other one says it's for younger children. So just make sure you are taking a look at all these different posters if you want more information on if your child could be suitable for said playground. But let's take a look at the inside design of this playground. Looking quite nice, almost completely made out of granite, looking very different from the other playground we saw before. A lot more friendly for the older kids, maybe even up to tweens. They could all enjoy this playground. We have huge climbing structures connected with a slide at the center. And we see some people actually taking advantage of the nice day to actually play on these structures as well. The other thing about granite having this material, it is a lot more friendly towards heat because it does not store the heat like metal would. So it's a lot more friendly and easily touchable, even during these very hot, sweltering days. So it definitely has that effect, and it also gives it more of the ruins feel, or the ruinous feel, all being made out of one basic color and all being made out of granite to make it more feel like it's ancient ruins. And now we get a nice view at the other side of the playground, where we can see the Mets directly across the street. a nice water feature for some of the older kids out there. And again, people taking advantage of that on a very hot and sweltering day in the park. So that nice little sprinkler there. And again, all of the playgrounds throughout Central Park have a water feature in them. So definitely check it out when you can. Something else also really interesting about the ancient playground is this feature in the back. So yes, we have another set of sprinklers for some younger folks because it's set a little bit lower, but this feature all the way directly in the back where a sandbox sits, it actually resembles something in the park. So we're just getting a little bit of a closer view, but some of our playgrounds actually reference other features in Central Park. Like for instance, this is actually referencing a monument, the oldest monument that we have all throughout Central Park that is known as the obelisk. We can see it has a similar shape, but it is shrunken down to a tiny size. But let's get a little glimpse at what the obelisk actually looks like. So this is the obelisk that sits inside Central Park, not too far away from this playground actually. And essentially it's also known as Cleopatra's Needle. This was originally discovered by the Romans in BCE 12, but essentially it was one of two obelisks that was gifted in the 1870s. The Egyptian government decided to give one obelisk to England and the second obelisk to us, the United States. And it has been sitting there ever since. So definitely check out Cleopatra's Needle / the obelisk when you have the chance, with all these different ancient hieroglyphs that actually are carved into the obelisk. It is quite a sight to see, quite tall, and it is the oldest monument that we have throughout all of Central Park. So that's really neat that that playground actually decided to reference that. So definitely check it out if you get the chance. And something very important, this park also features bathrooms, both children's bathrooms that we're looking at on this side, as well as adults' bathrooms that will be in the back parts of this structure here. So that is also very key. The next time you're going to visit Ancient Playground, I would highly recommend your next trip to the Met, maybe visit the Ancient Playgrounds afterwards. Just make sure that you have a child in tow, because adults are not allowed by themselves in playgrounds. All right, and with that, we're going to be shimmying our way downtown now to continue on with our work. And we're just getting our last little glimpses of Cedar Hill before we get back on the path. Everybody enjoying some picnicking out there. Got to get back on the path to continue our journey to our next destination. I found this really neat plaque as I was on my journey that talks about Cedar Hill and Glade Arch, that essentially is talking about this path once being a road made for horses and carriages. And essentially that went throughout the park from Miners Gates, East 79th. And essentially that this part of the park was actually designed by Calvert Vaux, one of the two designers of Central Park. So I thought that was very interesting. So I just wanted to highlight that feature. So let us continue getting some nice shade from these trees before we get to our next playground, which is in our sights. And here's the plaque that sits right outside of the playground. This is the James Michael Levin Playground. And of course, we could see that this restoration was a gift for the children of New York City in memory of Janice Levin and the Philip and Janice Levin Foundation, and renovated last in 2010. And these are the gates sitting right outside the James Michael Levin Playground. We have a couple of different areas here, 2 areas situated for smaller kids, 1 area situated for some older kids. And here is the centerpiece of the James Michael Levin Playground, a very neat water feature indeed. Again, every single playground, different water feature, but let's get a closer look at the design of this intricate statue that sits in the middle of the water feature. So this is like the centerpiece of the Michael Levin Playground, and it is quite interesting. It has different carvings of women around it, and also a cat. As we can see, some animals on this little feature and some words etched on it that says, "May I never fail a friend nor fight a foe, but fairly. In the depths of despair, may I never lose hope." So some nice little words of affirmation there. And let's just see the back side of this nice intricate statue. And then it has more figures on this side, a tiny little man, some more women, and it has some more words etched onto this side. So this says that this is going to be in memory of Sophie Irene Loeb. She was a lover of children, a home for every child, and her greatest wealth was her heart of gold. So a little dedication to Sophie Irene Loeb and a dedication to the children of Central Park with this very nice intricate statue that sits inside of James Michael Levin Playground. So the next time, definitely check this out and marvel at all the artistry if you can. And this is just the other side of the playground that has a little bit of bigger play structures for the older kids who would like to visit. Lots of room to run in this playground as well, but let us continue on with our journey. All right, so we are shimmying downtown, making our way from Michael Levin's playground, headed off to our next site. Oh, and this was the other side of the playground that actually features some swings as well. But let's shimmy on downtown, head off to our next destination, which we actually have in our view right now. And of course, that is going to be Conservatory Water. Conservatory Water is very unique out of our water bodies. It is a mirror reflective pool, and it gives us a nice view of the juxtaposition of the city versus all the nature that surrounds and engulfs Central Park. It is also known as the model boat pond because all of the various buoys in there are supposed to simulate a water course for the different model boats that might sail around Conservatory Water. But directly behind us sits a different kind of playground. And this is more commonly known as the Alice in Wonderland statue or the Margarita Delacourt Memorial. Now, this is a different kind of playground because Margarita Delacourt decided to dedicate this to the children of Central Park, which means it is completely interactive and functions as a play structure or a jungle gym because it is completely climbable. So we have a little bit of close up of Alice and all of her different friends. But as we can see on the previous slide, we have different mushrooms, making it very easy to climb all around Alice and all of her different friends. So, and we also have a little cameo of George Delacourt himself, who is going to be the person who donated this statue to the park, a philanthropist who donated quite a few other things to the park, namely the Delacourt Theater. Of course, that's where Shakespeare in the Park happens. So the Mad Hatter is going to be a little cameo of George Delacourt. That is very fun. So we are going to be making our way downtown to our next destination. We have to go up the path to leave Conservatory Water now, and then across the streets to get to our next playground. So this is going to be the East 72nd Street Playground. And the last time this was renovated was going to be in 2015 due to the Leroy Schechter Foundation. And here is basically the whole playground. We could actually see almost the entire thing as soon as we enter, with all these different play structures and a nice soft ground for kids to run around and play on, a couple of tire swings, and very similarly to the ancient playground, a climbing structure with some slides also attached, in addition to another different type of climbing structure, something with a bunch of soft chains. And if we look to the other side of this playground, we do have definitely lots of space to run, but the other side of the playground is primarily for the different water features. So we have one water feature situated here with someone taking advantage of all that water. And all up top, this little bridge area, there's going to be another water feature, a little bit more suitable for our younger folks, our younger children visitors that actually visit East 72nd Street Playground. So not too much to this playground, but still very good nonetheless, especially if you're trying to cool off in this crazy heat. And with that, we're going to be making our way to our final destination for today as we make our way up and down all these winding paths. We are actually at our final playground of the day with this nice rustic structure greeting us at the front. This is going to be known as the Billy Johnson Playground. I really enjoy this rustic structure that sits at the front. That definitely looks different in the winter times and fall times with all this greenery covering us up for the shade. We are at the Billy Johnson Playground, which is actually one of my most favorite playgrounds all around Central Park, and I'm going to exactly show you why. In the ancient playground, we saw a reference to one of the monuments all around Central Park, that being the obelisk. But Billy Johnson Playground actually has a couple different monuments that you could view around Central Park, or at least little references to them. And as we enter, we can see that it is actually quite grandiose and quite spacious. As this is only the front part of the playground, we will inspect the back in just a moment. But the first reference or nod to other features of Central Park is going to be this rustic structure right here. So this rustic structure is a miniature version of the Dean Summer House. And the Dean Summer House actually sits just outside of Billy Johnson Playground up a hill. And essentially, it's one of our very scenic rustic structures that lots of people usually take advantage of to take nice different photo ops, like wedding photos, for example. And it features lots of different greenery on the top to keep you nice and shaded in the summertime. So I think that that's really cool. They decided to make a miniature version of this rustic structure accessible to kids, making them more curious about the world around them. So I actually really appreciate that. So definitely check that out. A little reference to the Dean Summer House. Here we have the other side of the playground that is filled with different types of climbing structures. Definitely check that out. Some more rustic architecture to behold as well. Very nice. And another reference to yet another feature of Central Park. So this is going to be none other than a miniature version of the Gap Style Bridge. Now, the Gap Style Bridge sits at the south end of the park, right at the pond, and it is more popularly known as the same bridge where the Home Alone scene, where the pigeon lady actually lives. So this is a little miniature version of Gap Style Bridge. I definitely enjoy seeing that here as well. And also they decided to make the water feature of this park right underneath Gap Style Bridge, again, referencing where it actually sits, which is going to be at the south end of the park, right above the pond. So a nice little Gap Style Bridge filled with all different types of rocks, most of them being Manhattan mica schist, I assume. So that is really nice, along with the little water feature that encourages kids to explore not only the top of the bridge, but underneath as they try to cool off from all of this crazy heat. And here we just have our last picture for today, and that is going to be what it looks like to be right on top of that mini Gap Style Bridge that sits inside of Billy Johnson Playground. So definitely there is a little bit more features in the back, another slide made out of stone. So it's quite a big and grand playground, and it features a couple miniature sites that you could catch around Central Park. So I highly recommend taking a visit to Billy Johnson Playground. And I would like to thank you all today for coming to today's weekly walk. But before we go, we have lots of exciting upcoming tours to fill the end of your summer with. All right, so we have the evening art stroll, which is actually today at 6 p.m. So if you're watching this today live, definitely consider coming to the evening art stroll that actually starts at Osborne Gates, which we explored today. Very fun. Then we have movies in Central Park that's coming up next Wednesday. All right, August 3rd at 6 p.m., led by yours truly. So definitely would love to see y'all at Movies in Central Park, where we reference all different movies that have been filmed around the park. And then finally, if you want to explore some playgrounds with your children, we have some family programming. It's known as Playground Adventure. Every single playground adventure is going to have the same activities. However, we do visit all different playgrounds all around Central Park. So definitely check out any of our 3 offerings, especially Playground Adventure, if you were very curious on seeing some of the features and designs of any playground that's near your neighborhood, all right? So thank you all so much for continuing to always support us and supporting the Conservancy. We always appreciate all of your unwavering support. So I would like everybody to have a nice day, to stay cool out there, stay hydrated, and to stay safe and be well. I'm just gonna leave it off on the tour page, just in case anyone is interested. We have links in the chat for all these offerings, okay? All right, stay safe, stay cool, be well. Bye for now.